so that today's webinar is on our YouTube channel as well as on our website. I want to welcome the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce President, Shane Griffin. How are you today, Shane?
Hey, Rebecca, I am great. It was good to see you for a moment. I've lost you. I see your name, but not your picture or your face.
I know, I'm sorry about that. Apparently my video said, you know what, you really do need to go get your hair colored, so we're done.
Mine's telling me I need a shave. Mine's telling me I need a shave, and a very
Here I am.
Yeah. So this is the pandemic beard continues. So it's been an interesting time to say the least. We thank you, Rebecca, for your efforts in helping us put together Monday with the mayor. Before we get started, a couple of reminders about some events that are coming up. This coming Thursday, we will be having our monthly luncheon. It's our virtual monthly luncheon, our second one. So we ask that you please join us. We have got some very timely information. Dr. Michael Schmidt, who was on the Pivot with John Carroll last Tuesday, will be our featured speaker, and he had all kinds of great information when it came to the virus and things to know about the virus, and also what he kind of sees going forward. So we expect a large virtual turnout. So register at the website, mountpleasantchamber.org. That's mountpleasantchamber.org to register. And again, that's coming up this Thursday. And then on Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, we will be having our Before 9 virtual coffee. That's presented by Spring Hill Suites by Marriott. So luncheon this Thursday, coffee next Tuesday, as we continue to keep the events coming for you, albeit virtually. We felt it important to still continue to get together and to network and to provide you with some great content. So a couple of reminders.
And I want a reminder too, Shane, if you don't mind, tomorrow the Pivot is on COVID-19 and childcare. Right. Which has also become a very hot topic right now. So that's tomorrow, moderated by John Carroll. The Pivot, living and working during COVID-19. Tomorrow's topic on childcare, and that's at 3:30 tomorrow. Also on our calendar.
Yes, thanks for that. And also, if you miss any of these events live, you can always go to either our YouTube channel or the website, the mountpleasantchamber.org. The YouTube channel, just search for Mount Pleasant Chamber. There are 2 channels there, but the one with the most videos is the one that you want to check out. So if you miss any of this content, you can always watch it on demand on your time, either at the website or at the YouTube channel. So enough about us. We want to bring in our 2 esteemed guests. First of all, from the town of Mount Pleasant, Lauren Sims, and the Honorable Will Haynie, the mayor of Mount Pleasant. Good afternoon, you two. Good to see you again.
Good afternoon, Shane.
Thanks a lot for the time. We really appreciate you two taking time out to do Monday with the mayor as this continues to gain steam. This is really neat to be able to sit down with the mayor and talk about what's happening within the town, and then also too from a business perspective to get Lauren's take as well. So again, thanks very much for the time. And Mr. Mayor, I'll start with you. We go back to our conversation of last week, and I gave the numbers. The number of cases in the state had doubled in the last month, and the news is unfortunately getting worse as we continue to set record after record after record as days go by with the number of cases that are increasing. And again, there is more testing, but we're getting out more and sometimes not wearing our masks or not washing our hands. But this, again, as we talked last week, sir, not a time to rest on your laurels and to think this is over by any stretch of the imagination, right?
That's right. And I've got some numbers, I think, Lauren, do you have some numbers as well that the town puts out on the confirmed cases? First, I want to say hey to everybody. Thank y'all for joining us every week. You know, here we are mid-June. It's hard to believe already. And the numbers are increasing. It's not just due to increased testing, though. I'm not an epidemiologist, and I don't play one on Zoom. But we gotta stay very COVID aware. And I think the head of DHEC, Dr. Bell, I think she has elucidated on why these numbers are rising. I've got some non-COVID related numbers, but some business related numbers that I think might add to that. But Lauren, if I can throw it to you, if you'll give us what those numbers look like. It's a good eye opener.
Yes, sir. So these are actually just one-day numbers, but we're seeing kind of a pattern emerge. So these are pretty typical numbers for the past week or so. In South Carolina, 18,795 cases, that's an increase of 799 in a one-day time period. 600 deaths and an estimated 134,250 cases. In the county, we have 1,092 confirmed cases. That's an increase of 77. 15 deaths and an estimated case count of 7,800. And in our zip code here in Mount Pleasant, the combined zip code total is 197 confirmed cases.
Right, and unless they have changed the way they do these, everyone that's 2 weeks old drops. So when you see your numbers, you know, you got to keep in mind that there are cases that were confirmed that have dropped. But our emergency coordinator, Amanda Knight, gave me these numbers today, that on the 27th of May, our total was 123 for the 3 zip codes that we call Mount Pleasant. We know one of them is part of Allendale, but that's our community right there. You know, everybody there is working and probably in Mount Pleasant, doing business in Mount Pleasant. So some of those 123 have dropped because we're 2 weeks, right? Yeah, 2 weeks from May 27th, and we're at 197 now. So that is a pretty drastic increase in just a couple of weeks. So there are some reasons for that. I want to say that this afternoon I had to run an errand and I was in one of our Walmarts, and I would say that 50% of the people, customers, had masks on. All the staff had masks on. I really don't get it. I don't see what the problem is with wearing your mask. The times I don't wear one, if I know I have outdoor seating and I'm going to be eating and I'm walking from my car to outdoor seating and I'm not near anybody, you'll see me without a mask on, because I'm not going to take it off and put it on the table either. So that's one thing to think about. But when I'm in a big retail store like I was today, I've got my mask on. And so we need people to do that. And Shane, one of the things I was going to bring up is, and this restaurant has put this information out there, so I'm not violating any confidence, but Tzatziki's, big, chain restaurant, franchise restaurant right on Coleman Boulevard, had to close because they chose to close because they had a staff member test positive for COVID. Lauren, I don't know if we've had any others, but I do know about that one.
I haven't heard of any other Mount Pleasant-based businesses, but it was certainly a common thread over the weekend to see announcements from businesses having to close for the same reason. Right,
and we know that Snob downtown had to do the same thing. And let me say too, I am not saying that those positives in those businesses are a result of the practices those businesses were using, because we all know that a staff member can contract it off duty, when they're not at work, and then can present as positive. So that's not a reflection on what those businesses were or weren't doing. But I know, like over the weekend, I got a call from a big friend and supporter of mine, Mount Pleasant resident, whose wife and son, 7-year-old son, tested positive for COVID. So now he, a self-employed businessman, has an office, can't go to his own office for the next 2 weeks. And so this is not a scare tactic. I mean, we did the protective order in Mount Pleasant. We went along, the state did one and all that. We flattened the curve back in March and April, but there are people whose businesses are closing and who are not able to go to their own business because they have to self-quarantine because their immediate families were exposed. So I really don't know what more to say other than it's not that big of a deal to wear a mask, other than maybe when you're eating or when you're walking down the sidewalk, you don't need one. We know that. But when you're at work, when you're doing business with somebody, it's a very, very small price to pay. And it's a lot less of a price to pay than having to stay home from your own business or having to close.
Well, thank you for that. Obviously, information to take to heart as we continue to try to push through this, and hopefully we can flatten the curve a second time. It's very discouraging. We were locked away for 7, 8, 9 weeks or whatever the case may be. We're having to make adjustments to our everyday life, and just when you think we're coming out of it and things will start to get better, then we're actually at a higher peak than we were when we were at our highest peak back in April. So as I mentioned last week, and as Lauren and the mayor had said, that this is no time to rest on your laurels, no time to not take this seriously. And to Mr. Mayor's point, continue to wear those masks, continue to wash your hands, continue to social distance, and let's just try to get through this, the best that we can. We can't focus really on a large scale. I mean, we have to think about Mount Pleasant and what we can do on a local level, take personal responsibility to limit as best we can what's going on right now, because I know for me, it's a little discouraging. You're looking at ways to, I know for us as a chamber, how can we ramp up our events? How can we get our group back together? And, what about sports? And, all those things that we were hoping to kind of get to, that just kind of right now has come to a screeching halt in my mind. So all we can do is just try to get through it the best that we can with the tactics that we've already talked about. And Mr. Mayor, I mean, you mentioned a moment ago, but let's talk about the effects that those positives have on business. I mean, look at Tzatziki's, had to close down. Look at Snob, had to close down. This shows how imperative it is that if you own a business, work in a business, run a business, to take the precautions to do the things that you should be doing. And even if you work there and if you see consumers that are not doing what they should be doing in regards to social distancing or wearing a mask or whatever, you might want to say something. Am I wrong there?
No, you're not. And I'm getting emails through the town from citizens who want us to do a mandatory mask wearing thing in the town of Mount Pleasant. There are two issues with that. One is there's no way our police could enforce that. 95,000 people and 165 police officers. There's no way we could enforce that. The other is if it were challenged in court, I'm not sure that courts would rule that governments can tell you what you must wear. So we probably don't want to go down that route. You heard the governor say, was it Friday? His press conference days are all Thursday or Friday. There was a big press conference that he has no intention of doing more business closures. So really what it comes down to is more of a moral imperative to just do this. And whether you feel that you should have to wear a mask or not, if you would look at it as a business strategy, and I'm not trying to be flippant, we don't want to see more businesses have to close down. And I'm not saying close down by the government. I'm saying close down because they have a COVID case. And remember, I've been saying this since March. It's not just the confirmed cases. It's the effect of the quarantine on people that is even bigger in terms of numbers. Not if you got it and you had to be treated, that you would think that someone quarantining was worse than you being treated for COVID. I'm not saying that. But you might have one positive in your business and 4 people who have to quarantine. So there is a multiplier effect. So, just the best practices, the social distancing, the wearing a mask, and having the hand sanitizers. We also got a email from a citizen that said that they were in one of the major retailers and the hand sanitizers were out. And even though everybody has put the please stand here, like I noticed that at Walmart today, that people weren't abiding by that. So I really don't get it. We want everybody to stay open. We don't want to hear any more COVID cases. So let's just follow those and let's just do that. And we can flatten this curve again, as you mentioned.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you had mentioned when we spoke earlier about the one region state economic indicators. There are some very interesting statistics that you have that you wanted to communicate to our members. If you could do that for us.
Sure. This gives a business temperature. If you're a chamber member and you're in business, you probably know the temperature already. But this is sort of a macro thing that we got. And these are last week's numbers. 4 indicators: unemployment, job postings, mobility, and a small business survey on what the outlook is. And I just wanted to go over a couple of those. One is that unemployment claims peaked in mid-April. This is new claims. There were 14,000 new claims in 1 week in April. Those are down to 2,000 new claims. So the overall statewide trend is downward. As of last week, there were about 245,000 active unemployment claims in the state, which we know is unprecedented for us basically in our lifetime. But the trend is that is going down. Good news is metro job postings. There are 14,453 job postings for jobs in our metro region. That tells us that business is up and running. They need people. And it also, this is me again, I'm not an epidemiologist and I'm not an economist, but you get the feeling that some of the people who are on unemployment now on those 245,000 active claims might have occupied some of these jobs. And so these jobs are now being posted. And so when businesses, and this is just the metro region, are posting for almost 15,000 job openings, that tells you there is business going on, that there is income being had, and jobs are out there for the taking. So we need to look at, as businesses, as a chamber, as a town, how do we get people to know if you want work, that work is out there. I think that's an encouraging figure. The third one is mobility, and this is based on the cell phone tracking and trending that we all know at a metadata level, that both individual and commercial are trending back to about 100% mobility. You remember during the stay-at-home orders, it was way down to below 50%, both commercially and individually. So now it's back to about 100%. That's good. That says people are out shopping, they're out doing things. But Shane, that goes back to that number. That's another reason those numbers are back up of the COVID numbers. And last but not least is the Small Business Pulse Survey. This is businesses of fewer than 500 employees. The supply chain disruption is way down. That was an issue for a while. We know the supply chain for the compliant plastics and takeout kind of containers for Mount Pleasant that we have by ordinance. We heard that that supply chain is back to about full strength. So we decided at least give everybody a break for another month on that. But the supply chain disruption is I'll say minimal now. So if you've got a product and you're trying to move a product to market, that product is there. And the outlook is that 60% say that they will return to normal levels of business and normal employment within 4 to 6 months. Again, not being an economist, I take that as pretty good. I mean, we were afraid, and I heard, you know, during the peak of this, that our economy will never come back. Things will never be back to normal. A lot of things have disappeared forever. And I know it's all different if it's you, if it's your business, and if you're less than 50%, and I'm not diminishing that, but in this statewide outlook survey, 60% say that in 4 to 6 months, everything will be back to normal. So I would love to see that be more like 75 to 100% saying that. I am encouraged that 60% at this point are saying we're going to be back to normal that soon.
Well, I can say,
light to shed on that, I'm not sure.
well, and forgive me for interrupting, but I could say from my standpoint, in my line of business, there is a lot of positivity. People want to get back to normal. They want to spend money on marketing and advertising. They want to entice consumers to come in, buying goods and doing those types of things. So from a business standpoint, that really doesn't surprise me. Boy, I would love to see that, you know, October, November, December, fourth quarter, we're back to, even if it would be called a new normal, but we're back to doing things that we did in January and February. And Lauren, I'll come to you. Given that, I'm curious of what you're hearing from business owners and professionals in Mount Pleasant in regards to what they think things look like moving forward. And then I understand you had a meeting today where there was some discussion about some of the feedback you were getting from business owners.
Yeah, so just in some of our conversations with business owners, you know, we haven't really gotten to long-term, what does it look like yet? I think because everyone's still in here and now and trying to function here and now. I will say that the staffing levels, I've heard from, particularly in hospitality industry, continue to be a bit of a struggle. So definitely looking for ways that we can help there. But overall, business owners have seemed to be very upbeat and encouraged by the way things are going. You know, I think everybody was very nervous about the impact on our tourism industry, and particularly heading into the summer months. And I think everybody was a little bit surprised at the level of tourism that we saw very quickly. But you know, we were seen as a safe location and a convenient drive from many of our big drive markets. And so we did see a rather big push from the tourism industry. So it's kind of cautiously optimistic. Like I said, there's still a few things that are out there, and certainly things like the payroll protection, the extensions that were granted recently. Those things have given a little bit more breathing room to businesses. Understand that this is going to be a more long-term response than initially thought. So I would go with cautiously optimistic at this point in time. But as far as our meeting this morning went, so we kind of looked at what's going on in the environment, definitely taking into account what we've been seeing over the past week. And certainly, like I said, there were several announcements over the weekend from businesses with closures. I know me personally, I heard of several folks who, or several places where they had positive tests come back. And so, just to the mayor's comments earlier about the PPE, making sure that that is part of your daily business practice, but also making sure that it's being used properly. We see lots of folks using gloves. If they aren't switching the gloves out on a regular basis, there's no point in wearing them. And trust me when I say people are paying attention to whether or not the PPE is being used properly, because if it's not, mayor gets an email about it. So, making sure that your staff understand the proper way to use the PPE, and then also have conversations with them about what they do in their off time. Obviously, as an employer, you can't tell them you can and can't do this in your off time, but remind them that what they do in their off time affects what they're bringing into your place of business. I know we've had that conversation at the town standpoint, or from as an employer, making sure that we're all being safe and diligent and using our PPE when we're off hours, so that we don't bring that into our workplace, and it affects our level of service. So making sure that those conversations are being had, and then also to the mayor's point of empowering your employees to speak up when your business patrons maybe aren't following the markings on the floor. They're not standing 6 feet apart. I know me personally, I was in a business this past weekend. There were markings on the floor. They were being totally ignored. And so somebody has to be that voice of reason to speak up and say, hey, can we all, stand at the floor markings? They're there for a reason. And when I found when that's happening, most people are very agreeable to it. So just maybe running through a refresher. And then, for particularly the hospitality industry, but also for all businesses, because we are a tourism destination and we know that folks are here. All you have to do is look at the license plates around town to know that they're here. Just a reminder that COVID doesn't take a vacation. You may be out of your home, but COVID is still around us. And so to the point and to the extent that we can encourage our guests and our visitors to adhere to the regulations that are in place, the guidelines that are in place, we certainly ask you to encourage that.
Well, it kind of goes back to what the mayor had said before, where, the virus needs us. The virus needs us to congregate. It needs us to be in enclosed areas with large groups of people to start passing around. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, nobody's telling you can't go here and you can't go there and you can't do this and can't do that. Just be mindful, for example, today I had a few things to take care of. I did all of them today. I knocked out every errand I had to get done today, did it all at one time, did what I had to do, and I'm back at the house and probably won't go out for a few more days. That's, I can do that. Maybe other folks can, but just be mindful of your schedule, where you're going, what you're doing. And, again, hopefully we can get through this, the best that we can. I know we as a chamber are anxiously wanting to get back together as a group. But I've said this before, that I do not want to put the organization or any member of the organization in a bad position. So we're thinking about some ideas and maybe doing some smaller events outside. And that's probably not going to happen until August or September. So we continue to do things from a virtual standpoint, and we may get into some smaller outdoor events as time goes by. And, my hope is that we can congregate together as a group on a larger scale at our December luncheon when I hand off the reins to Eddie Phipps, who becomes our new president. Jennifer Maxwell will become our president-elect, and our new, obviously some new board members as well. That's the way I'd like to see things happen, but we just don't know at this point. So, well, we've kept you guys for about 25 minutes. We thank you very much for your time, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of points from the council meeting, a few points that the council went through on last Tuesday with your meeting.
Sure. We renewed 2 emergency ordinances that gave the break on the plastics. Already mentioned that. And about temporary signs, you know, just a little like a political campaign sign for businesses. We did that when restaurants had to put out there way back, seems like a whole lifetime ago. They were open for takeout only, and it caught your attention and all that. So since they really were the first ones shut down and paid the price, council felt like we needed to be a little understanding, and we extended that as well to our July meeting, which is the second Tuesday of July. But one of the things we want to point out, please put them on your property. Do not put them out in the rights of way. Don't put them in the medians and in the roundabouts in town and in the traffic circles and all that. It got to be a little bit much, and we started getting complaints about those. So the point is, if you want to put them out in front of your business to let people know, you know, you're open, you're safe. I have seen, going back to the thing I said, safety as a brand these days, people saying, you know, COVID safe practices and all that. That's really good stuff to do. So you've got another month to do that. So that was done. And before we wrap up, I found something today that I wanted to add. And this is like, this is fun, but it's sort of a good business thing for the new reality. I've gotten aware, and maybe y'all have too, I'm critiquing my own Zoom, like my lighting and my, you know, like my sound and all that kind of stuff. I found a Twitter feed today. Have y'all found this? It's called Room Rater, and it is at Rate My Skype Room is the Twitter handle, because they, get this, they only started in April of this year. In April, they have 223,600 followers on Twitter. And so what they will do, you can find it as Room Rater or Rate My Skype Room. They actually critique the lighting, your camera angle, your background, and all that stuff. So Shane and Lauren, I've really critiqued y'all. Guys and ladies with bookshelves in the back get really high ratings. Lauren, you get really high ratings because of the depth of the
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say I was getting really poor ratings.
And I'm saying that not just to be cute or funny, but we're doing a lot of business these days on Zoom and Skype and everything. So every little bit helps in the new normal. So, so give it some thought. I added some extra lighting over here. I need to fix that lamp in the back, and somehow, and I can't do this, I need to get the ceiling out of the top of my, my screen here, but it just won't quite. Anyway, it's a good thing. And I say that, one, because it's fun, and two, it's a great business practice, because now, as important as your business card in any first meeting you have, what you look like in a Zoom or a Skype business meeting is going to be very important. So I just wanted to pass that along as this week's little fun business tip.
You know, it's funny. I feel like I'm a fairly intelligent person. I feel like I've had a good amount of success in life. Why couldn't I have thought of that idea? Because that's sellable. I mean, that's the Twitter handle like that with all those followers is sellable. So, but no, thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. I just had these bookcases put in not too long ago. The COVID situation kind of rushed the project. I got a great deal on it too. So I'm very proud to show off my bookshelf. So I appreciate that. It makes me feel good that that's got high marks.
Sense of expert status. You've got all the books. And
plenty of books, lots of baseballs, all of that. I'm a big Dodger fan, as you can see right there. Kirk Gibson, my Dodger plaque that I made in 7th grade, which is right there. I made that plaque in 7th grade in woodshop class. So it's an opportunity for me to pull out all of my memorabilia. There's all kinds of stuff on the other side of the room between my wife and I, my parents, and
right.
A lot of fun stuff. So, but it's great to see you guys. We really, really appreciate the time that you guys take to visit with us every Monday. I know our members love it. Mondays with the Mayor has become a big hit. You're getting out a lot of great information that the members may not know, and I'm just grateful to the both of you for taking the time. A couple of more reminders about the events we have coming up. We have a Thursday virtual luncheon. Dr. Michael Schmidt will be our guest. Dr. Schmidt was a guest of John Carroll on the Pivot last Tuesday and has a lot of great information and will be a fantastic speaker. So I invite you to check out the monthly luncheon coming up this Thursday. And then we have our Before 9 coffee virtually. It's going to be Spring Hill Suites by Marriott. That is happening on Tuesday, June 23rd from about 7:30 to about 8:30, quarter to 9, something like that. So for those that are on the call, feel free to visit us for those events, and we appreciate you checking us out virtually and bearing with us during this time. So with that said, Lauren, Mr. Mayor, always great to see you both. Thank you for your time. And as I always like to say, be healthy, stay happy, keep moving forward. See you.
Thanks. Good to be with you again. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Thank
Shane.
you.
Bye-bye.